The year was 1942, and the United States War Department was locked in a desperate race against time to solve a deadly tactical dilemma unfolding on global battlefields. In the desert expanses of North Africa and across the hedgerows of Western Europe, American military planners realized that the average infantry rifleman was terrifyingly vulnerable to modern mechanized armor. Standard-issue rifles and light machine guns were utterly useless against thick steel plating, and towed-heavy anti-tank guns were far too bulky to maneuver quickly under dense artillery fire. The field army required a lightweight Locust, man-portable demolition system that could allow a two-man squad of foot soldiers to punch through several inches of hardened faceplate with the striking force of a mobile artillery piece. The engineering answer to this existential crisis was the M1 rocket launcher, unassuming 6-foot steel tube immediately dubbed the Bazooka by American troops due to its uncanny visual resemblance to a comical prop musical horn crafted from gas pipes by popular radio comedian Bob Burns. The secret behind the bazooka's terrifying, armor-piercing capability lay in groundbreaking chemical physics and explosive engineering. Specifically, the application of the Monroe Effect through the M6 high-explosive anti-tank or heat rocket. Unlike traditional artillery shells that relied on kinetic energy, extreme weight, and high impact velocity to shatter armor plate upon physical contact, the hot warhead carried a specialized shaped charge containing a hollow, inverted cone lined with solid sheet metal. When the electrical ignition circuit sparked and the rocket struck a hard surface, the forward nose fuse triggered a high-velocity explosive charge surrounding the cone. This explosive detonation exerted massive compression force, instantly collapsing the metal liner inward along its central axis and transforming it into a focused, hypervelocity, liquid metal jet traveling at speeds exceeding 20,000 feet per second. This concentrated beam of kinetic pressure and extreme thermal energy did not melt or smash through steel armor via sheer blast force. Rather, it subjected the solid metal plate to such intense pressure that the armor behaved like a fluid, allowing the jet to burn and bore directly through solid steel in a fraction of a second. Upon penetrating the interior cabin, the hyperpressurized gas and spray of molten metal expanded violently, instantly vaporizing fuel lines, detonating stored ammunition, and incinerating the crew inside. However, as the global conflict expanded into the vast theater of the Pacific War following the catastrophic amphibious landings across the Central and South Pacific, American soldiers and U.S. Marines encountered an operational environment that had virtually nothing in common with the armored tank battles of Western Europe or North Africa. Imperial Japanese strategic planners realized early in the war that their manufacturing base could never hope to match the industrial machinery, heavy tank production, or massed artillery output of the United States military. To counter this massive material disparity, Imperial Japanese Army engineers shifted toward an unyielding defense in depth doctrine designed to inflict maximum casualties and demoralize advancing amphibious forces. Across tiny, isolated coral atolls, volcanic islands, and dense jungle ridges, Japanese garrisons converted thousands of islands into fortress complexes that were virtually immune to conventional bombardment. In places like Tarawa, New Georgia, Peleliu, and later Iwo Jima, Imperial engineers perfected the art of fortification architecture. Where concrete was scarce, they turned to the natural resources of the tropical environment, building massive field pillboxes and bunkers out of interlocked coconut palm logs, multi-foot layers of tightly packed sand, compacted earth, and structural coral timber. These were not primitive dirt trenches. They were deeply engineered, multi-tiered defensive nodes built to withstand direct hits from heavy naval gunfire and 1,000-pound aerial bombs. The fibrous, elastic nature of coconut logs absorbed heavy kinetic shock waves without splitting or collapsing, while deep layers of soft sand deadened high-explosive blast waves, leaving the structural core intact. Inside these hidden field fortifications sat well-entrenched Japanese gunners operating Type 92 heavy machine guns, rapid-fire anti-tank cannon, and heavy mortar. These pillboxes were cleverly camouflage-painted with local foliage dug deep into the earth, and arranged in interlocking networks where each bunker covered the blind spots of the adjacent pillboxes, turning landing beaches and jungle pathways into carefully calibrated kill zones. When U.S. Marine assault waves slammed into the coral reefs of Tarawa in late 1943, they encountered these deadly strongpoints firsthand with catastrophic results. Standard infantry weapons were completely ineffective against these hardened emplacements. Rifle bullets bounced harmlessly off thick wooden embrasures, and conventional hand grenades lacked the sheer explosive yield to penetrate deep earthworks or breach reinforced wooden access doors. Infantry units were pinned down on narrow, tide-swept beaches, taking staggering casualties while the entrenched defenders remained virtually unscathed behind feet of dirt, timber, and concrete, faced with near-total slaughter on the beaches. Frontline Marines and infantrymen began looking at the M1 Bazooka carried by their organic anti-tank platoons. In the Pacific Theater, Japanese armored vehicles were rare, light, and poorly armored compared to German Panzers. Tanks like the Type 95 Hago could easily be disabled by heavy machine guns or light mortar. Consequently, the bazooka's primary target enemy heavy armor was almost non-existent in many island landings. Frontline troops quickly realized that if a shape-charge rocket could punch through 4 inches of solid face-hardened tank armor, it might provide the exact lightweight, squad-level firepower needed to destroy fortified Japanese bunkers. Yet, when anti-tank teams maneuvered under fire and fired their first M6 rockets directly at coconut log pillboxes, the initial tactical results were frustratingly poor and dangerously unpredictable, because the M6 heat warhead was precisely calibrated to detonate against hard, unyielding steel plates to establish the exact standoff distance required for the liquid metal jet to form striking, soft, yielding surfaces like sandbags, damp earth, or fibrous would cause massive fuse failures. The nose cone of the rocket frequently crushed without firing, rendering the missile a dud. Even when the rocket detonated successfully, the physics of a shaped charge presented an unexpected tactical limitation. The focused metal jet punched a tiny, neat holophon less than 2 inches in diameter straight through the coconut logs or earth wall. Unless that pencil-thin stream of intense energy happened to directly strike a Japanese gunner or hit an ammunition storage box inside. The pressure wave inside the cavernous dirt chamber was often insufficient to incapacitate the occupants. Japanese gunners simply stepped away from the entry hole, waited for the dust to settle, and resumed firing out of their embrasures at the pinned-down American infantry. Furthermore, deploying the bazooka in tight jungle conditions or on open coral beaches exposed the two-man gun teams to extreme operational hazards. The rocket motor generated a massive, blinding flash and a thick cloud of white smoke from its tailpipe upon firing. This heavy backblast instantly revealed the gunner's exact position to surrounding snipers, machine gun nests, and enemy mortar teams. In the close quarters fighting of the Pacific, where engagements were often fought at ranges under 50 yards, firing a bazooka frequently meant inviting an immediate hail of targeted counterfire before the loader could slide a second rocket into the tube. Despite these terrifying limitations, American field commanders recognized that the bazooka possessed raw, portable, armor-piercing capabilities that no other squad-level weapon could offer. It was light enough to be carried by two men through waist-deep mud and shattered coral reefs, unlike heavy artillery. What was urgently needed was not the abandonment of the weapon, but an immediate overhaul in battlefield tactics, ammunition design, and squad integration. As the American amphibious campaign pressed relentless pressure across the Central and South Pacific through 1944 and 1945, the United States military began systematically adapting both the bazooka's ammunition and the infantry doctrine surrounding its tactical use. The Ordnance Department responded to urgent field reports by issuing upgraded rockets, most notably the M6A1 and M6A3 variants, which featured redesigned, highly sensitive nose, fuses, and streamlined ogives engineered to detonate reliably upon striking softer targets like sandbags, earthworks, and heavy timber. Even more revolutionary was the introduction of the M10 white phosphorus rocket for the 2.36-inch launcher. Instead of relying on a narrow, focused, directional jet, white phosphorus warheads burst into terrifying clouds of dense, suffocating smoke and intensely burning chemical particles upon impact. When fired directly into the narrow firing slits or ventilation ports of a Japanese pillbox, the burning phosphorus rapidly depleted the interior oxygen, obscured vision, and created unendurable heat, forcing the defenders out into the open where waiting riflemen could instantly neutralize them. Tactically, frontline Marine and Army units ceased using the bazooka as a standalone bunker destroyer and instead integrated it into specialized, highly coordinated assault teams. This doctrine was formalized and perfected by the U.S. Marine Corps as the Corkscrew and Blowtorch systematic approach, designed to dismantle reinforced fortifications step by step. In this coordinated assault structure, squad riflemen and Browning automatic riflemen provided continuous, high-volume suppression fire directed straight into the viewing embrasures and gun slits of a target bunker, to force the Japanese gunners to pull back from their weapons. Under the protective umbrella of this suppression fire, a two-man bazooka team would maneuver through dead space, crawling along blind spots to within 30 to 50 yards of the fortification. The bazooka team's newly assigned operational role was not necessarily to destroy the entire bunker in a single shot, but to function as a precision engineering tool. The gunner aimed specifically for critical structural points, the concrete edges surrounding the firing slit, heavy steel access doors, or the main load-bearing joints of coconut log frames. Upon impact, the shaped charge would shatter concrete embrasures, blow off steel doors, or blast wide cracks through compressed log layers, creating substantial structural openings and breaches in the bunker's outer shell. The moment the bazooka cracked open the target's outer defensive shell, the next element of the assault team, the blowtorch, moved into position. The operator of the M222 liquid fuel flamethrower sprinted forward under cover of dust and smoke, aligning the nozzle directly with the fresh breaches created by the bazooka rocket. The flamethrower operator then fired continuous streams of burning, gelled fuel through the newly made openings. The liquid napalm flowed through the cracks, consuming all remaining oxygen inside the subterranean chambers, igniting stored ammunition caches and instantly eliminating the garrison within. If any portion of the structure remained standing, combat engineers equipped with heavy satchel charges containing high explosive TNT followed behind, shoving explosive packs directly into the breach holes opened by the bazooka to completely collapse the roof and neutralize the fortification permanently. By the time United States forces invaded the Japanese home island perimeter of Iwo Jima and Okinawa in early 1945, Imperial defensive doctrine had evolved into its most extreme form. Recognizing that surface fortifications were vulnerable to air and naval strikes, Japanese commanders constructed vast subterranean networks carved directly into deep volcanic rock, soft limestone, and mountain ridge systems. On Iwo Jima's Mount Suribachi and across Okinawa's formidable Shuri defense line, American forces faced multi-tiered cave complexes featuring thick steel blast doors, reinforced concrete casemates, and hidden gun ports that could be uncovered, fired from, and resealed within seconds. On these brutal battlefields, the upgraded M9 and M9A1 bazooka variants proved invaluable. The M9 featured a lightweight, two-piece breakdown barrel that could be unbolted in the center, making it significantly easier for troops to carry through tight ravines, rocky trenches, and dense terrain. Furthermore, the M9 was equipped with an optical sight and an improved optical reticle that replaced the crude wire sights of early models, drastically improving first-round accuracy at extended ranges. Infantry teams utilized the M9 to act as anti-fortification snipers, taking precise aim at tiny embrasures and cave openings from hundreds of yards across open valleys. Riflemen leveraged the rocket's remarkably flat trajectory to fire directly into small subterranean apertures, destroying concealed machine gun positions and anti-tank guns that had pinned down entire assault battalions. The historical evolution of the bazooka from a European anti-tank rocket tube into a Pacific bunker-busting system remains one of the most remarkable examples of field-driven tactical adaptation in modern military history. What originated as an emergency anti-weapon built to engage steel tanks on flat plains was transformed by frontline American GIs and Marines into a devastating siege weapon for close quarters, amphibious, and island-hopping warfare. By analyzing the physical mechanics of shaped charge warheads and incorporating them into synchronized squad-level assault tactics alongside flamethrowers and high explosives, Allied forces effectively stripped the Imperial Japanese Army of its greatest defensive asset, its network of subterranean and surface fortresses. The adaptation of the bazooka did not merely solve a tactical bottleneck in the Pacific theater. It cleared a direct path through the most heavily fortified islands on Earth, driving the war to its ultimate conclusion.